event chart right at the start of the month, shortly on screen. But before I do, I just want to tell you about a very special opportunity. If you order your unique personal horoscope for year 2025 now, I'll give you the rest of year 2024 free, plus you'll get 30% off and also your life roadmap report. Please see the link beneath this video so you can check this out. If you know your tropical astrology really well, why not check out my draconic version? Same offer, the rest of this year free, all of 25, plus your draconic character analysis, and also 30% off. Welcome Taurus, to your in-depth monthly horoscope for August 2024 for the ascendant, the sun or the moon. On the screen now, I'm showing the event chart right at the start of the month. As ever, we need to be mindful of your ruler, the glorious Venus, which starts the month in a tense exchange with the free-spirited Uranus located in your sign. What does this mean? Well, Venus in the sign of Leo and the Sun being in Leo, the sign it rules, has really been encouraging you to become much more mindful of your home environment. And because you have got Jupiter and Mars and even the moon right at the start of this month in your second house very redolent of the energy of your sign. The moon in the second house is really like the exaltation that the moon enjoys in Taurus. So there is a sense at the start of this month that you're going to want to invite people around, to spoil them, play mine host, cook a lovely meal, meet up with people who are special to you in a location that's familiar and comforting. You're going to be very aware of your environment at the start of this month. But what about if there is a situation where you feel that your generosity has been perhaps taken a little bit for granted, or perhaps someone in your family situation is not necessarily as attuned to your needs as you would like. And if there is a separation, or there has been a separation in the past, you're going to be really aware of that as this month begins, which may feel a little bit uncomfortable. And part of the reason for that, I feel, Taurus, is the role of Chiron and the North Node in your 12th house. These are very important influences. Chiron actually links in a very positive way to your ruler. However, the North Node is in a terrific link with the sun. So they're kind of saying to you, the more you can get in touch with your deeper feelings, the more it will make you aware of who is around you on an energetic basis who drains you. And therefore your sensitivity can be higher at the start of this month, but also your desire to feel heard or seen in terms of your sense of value, which is the energy in the sign of Gemini. And you're going to want to communicate that. But also, Mars in the sign of Gemini is forging a brilliant link to the sun. So if you do want to invest some money in a property or a savings plan or something to do with a renovation or buy some new furnishings or do some home decoration, your drive to crack on and achieve it can be very strong. It's just your sector of friendship and future plans is potentially afflicted by both Saturn and also Neptune. In the case of Neptune, I think it's a very powerful influence for us all, because with the exception of Pluto, it's the closest to a cusp. But in the case of Neptune, it's the closest to the first house cusp for us all collectively. But for you, having Neptune on the anaretic point and squaring up with the moon means that if there is somebody around you who's not really as genuine as you would need and like, or does take your resources or your generosity for granted, that could be something that really burns you a little bit. And also Saturn, in a harsher way, is in a right angle to Jupiter. So if you are trying to do business with someone who's got a completely different worldview, completely different set of values, whether it's applying for a job, whether it's working for someone who's got their own small business and doesn't really seem to recognize how hard you work and your worth, or what your long-term value could be if they really shaped a relationship with you in a progressive way, all of that can create some issues. So I feel at the start of this month you're very focused on what you're worth, or where you don't feel heard or seen or valued, but also you're focused on family, emotional and nurturing elements of your situation. But it's not all about those things, because Mercury, the planet of communication, is back in a rather playful place in the second zodiac sign it rules of Virgo, but it is clashing with Pluto. So Pluto's in a very influential part of your chart in terms of your connection to the wider world. So if you do want to be a bit more creative around your work particularly, and you're in an organisation which just wants you to stick to the plan, and you don't feel that you can get much out of it in a way, in a personal context, that could close in upon you a little bit right at the start of this month. But your ruler Venus, as I mentioned before, is in a terrific angle to Chiron. So if there are people that really do get you, they really are in your corner, I think they're going to step forwards, but I think it is going to be a bit of a chasm, to be honest. I think you're going to see quite clearly who's for and who's much less for you in the initial part of this month. But then you get a supreme opportunity, not least, first of all, with the new moon in Leo, which forges a very dynamic angle to Jupiter. There could be some good news linked to a property matter or even family. Maybe it's an inheritance, maybe it's knowledge you're gaining that helps you to use your resources in a way which creates security and plans for the long term. But then Venus moves out of your fourth house and into the fifth, technically in full in the sign of Virgo, but it's joining up with Mercury, which goes retrograde on the 5th too, and they meet on the 8th. Now the interesting thing about Mercury going retrograde, we all know, because Mercury is in its pre-retrograde shadow from the start of this month, that Mercury retrogrades can seem to coincide with technological downs. You can't get your money out of your bank, or air traffic controllers will go on strike, or we get industrial relations issues at ports. I remember when there was all the volcanic issues in Iceland many years ago. It's probably about 14 years ago now. And all this ash was coming out everywhere, and loads of flights all over Europe were cancelled because of visibility issues and safety issues, and Mercury for sure was retrograde. So we know, or most of us believe, it's not a fallacy. It's not something that we're thinking is going on and making a connection. But the key is that Mercury in Virgo is about precision, and the 5th house and Venus, which can be very much to do with romance, can also be to do with creativity. What is it that you possess that you could share more effectively with a wider audience? Because maybe the Mercury retrograde's asking you to revisit, rework, recalibrate, reset. Maybe it's not just about your vacuum cleaner packing in, which has been a tried and trusted companion for however long. It's more about how you're thinking. And we all know we can think our reality, and sometimes we find it very difficult not to think things down. There is going to be a challenge to both Venus and Mercury from both Neptune in terms of Mercury, but also Saturn in terms of Venus. So for you, the 11th house, Saturn and Neptune, has created some disappointments. I feel that maybe where you've been connected to someone in a group situation, maybe a friendship, maybe it's a sports team, maybe it's where you have some kind of investment in a belief or a cause that really inspires you. Someone somewhere may have really been a huge disappointment over the last 15 or 16 months because of Saturn. However, what I feel that this month can do, in a way, is help you to recalibrate the balance in terms of your expectations, but also manage your time a little bit more shrewdly. And by the 15th, as Mercury actually rewinds, it inverts back into your 4th house. If there is something you're trying to do in terms of that physical or practical upgrade at home, maybe is the contractors not being as reliable as you would like, or had to get them back to do some amendments, that's possible. Or also if you have been thinking a lot earlier in the month about your home and emotional environment, maybe there's something that does need to be revisited. You could find yourself feeling quite sentimental, particularly on the 19th when we have the Mercury cazimi. This one is an inferior conjunction because Mercury's in the retrograde and it's this side of the Sun, but essentially the Sun radiates its energy into the power of Mercury, and when they're closely together and exact, particularly in the natal chart, can confer huge ingenuity onto the subject. So there's an opportunity for you to think very shrewdly and cleverly about a home-based business, a small enterprise, family politics, all that kind of stuff. It's just that from the 10th through to the 19th, Mercury is in an opposition with Neptune. So the information that you're trying to process through that cazimi does need to be where you've checked it out and thought very rationally about how things are. Also, from the 17th to the 25th, Venus is in an opposition with Saturn. Maybe there is someone you're really attracted to, but for some reason that's not necessarily clear, they're not quite available, or they've got other constraints. Maybe they live a little far away. Maybe it's a friendship that goes through a bit of a chill wind. Part of it could in some ways be because the combination between Mars and Jupiter, which is very buoyant and very self-assured, could see you score some financial successes from the 8th through to the 20th with some kind of uplift, particularly on the 14th. If someone's jealous about that, that could be teased into the open, sadly. On the 19th, we have an aspect that's been building up between the Sun and Uranus from the 16th through to the 22nd, but exact on the 19th, also works its way into the full moon in Aquarius. Now, Pluto's been really suggesting to you that there may be some big shifts in terms of your worldly connections. You could take on more authority. You may find yourself in a role of a decision maker, even if it's something that you've been resisting somehow or another. Or maybe your way of being in the public eye feels a little bit in some ways challenging, because it could make you feel a little naked in terms of the scrutiny that that can create. And I feel that this particular full moon in Aquarius can bring up some more of those issues. It's about trying to balance what you want in terms of your protected side of your situation. The moon influenced 4th house, which happens to be the Sun in Leo, so you want that part of your life to be enriched, but maybe there's some worldly challenges, but there could be some disruption for your sign, unfortunately, on this full moon. I don't want to say this in a fearful way. I really don't like when astrologers do that. I'm just being truthful, and of course it depends on where you have personal planets or placements in the sign of Taurus. So if you have got them a little later, because this particular full moon is around 27 degrees, it's possible that you may have to flex on something that in some ways makes you feel a little bit on the back foot. But mainly it's because your nature is to like continuity, and that's part of what you're going to really be trying to develop in the early part of the month, and you can do it. It's just that Uranus, slowly but surely, has been a very provocative influence over the last, full time since March 2019. And of course, it started its journey in a very abrasive right angle with Mars in your sector of responsibility and worldly interaction. So right back to the middle of May 2018, some kind of big hit may have come your way. And since then, depending on where you've got those placements, Uranus has been pushing you and asking you to release that part of your nature which likes to have quite a calibrated set of routines, because they do make you feel very safe and at ease, and to be more fluid and not quite so rigid. But the problem, of course, is that your sign is based on continuity. It's a fixed sign, and Uranus is, of course, in its full in your sign, so it's not been easy. There's been times when you know, maybe you have expressed yourself in a radically new and fresh way and enjoyed the experience, and at other times you've yearned for how maybe it used to be. So all of those kind of things can culminate a little bit with that full moon. But the suggestion for me really, if you have got those placements late on, is just flex, because it's when we resist we create tension and aberration. So just flex. We've got 3 fixed placements, and when Leo in the mix, there can always be a bit of pride knocking around, whether it's someone else's or someone else's, you know, need for a lot of attention, which could be something that you might find a bit challenging. But on the 22nd, the sun moves into a very favoured area for you, very playful one. And also on the 28th, Mercury goes direct. But that move of the sun into the sign of Virgo is where you can feel more outgoing, more self-assured, more interactive with others. We do, though, have one other late switch. Venus, your ruler, also governs the sign of Libra. Very much more about how we relate, partnerships, harmony, can be to do with presentation, can be a little synthetic, sometimes can appear a bit insincere, but essentially about relationships. But for you, there could be an opportunity around a professional relationship where you can actually showcase your talent and be true to your skills in a much better way, because Venus can be about money for its rulership of your sign, but it links for the first time in our lifetimes to Pluto in a very influential way. So you could find yourself enjoying some kind of raise in status or raise in earnings through some kind of new job that actually helps you to express yourself in just the way you want. So to recap, Taurus, this month certainly starts off with a lot of emphasis on money and where you live, how you live there, who with, and the emotional dimension. You do have challenges coming your way from the energies in the sign of Pisces, which could be through friendships and group alliances, and you perhaps being a little too idealistic. But there are huge opportunities this month to have some very good fortune through the new moon, to use Mercury's retrograde to reset something that needs to change, to try to flex as much as you can as this month goes on. You could definitely have a stroke of serendipity around the middle of the month financially, and that new job or opportunity or playful interaction can bring your cosmic month to a close. It's been a real pleasure being with you. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. About 50% of people who watch my videos are not subscribers. Please help the channel to grow by clicking that sub button and also that bell notification symbol. And please check out that special offer below.